Alrighty, hi everybody. For those that don't know me, my name's Ari Bakla. I'm from Sydney. I'm sure most of you guys know who this is. His name's Spencer Rivkin, and we're down here today at the Hills Offroad RC Car Club for the 2024 RCRA EP Offroad Australian titles. And today we're going to do a little bit of a track walk.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is my first time coming here to Australia. Definitely, definitely pretty awesome racing you guys have here. I mean, as you guys would say, we're lucky that we get to race on what we have, but it's nice to have a different style of racing. Actually, this is my second time in Australia. The first time we were in Perth for the 8 Scale Worlds. So it's been a really awesome experience. You guys have been very welcoming to the guys here coming from the States. And yeah, let's do this track walk.
Yes. All right. So we're standing on the front straight, obviously, in front of the driver's stand. You got your timing loop here. This is where all the action happens at the end of the end of A1 and A2 and A3. Surface is really nice and smooth. Normally, on a regular club day, we get a little bit of rock, and it gets a little bit edgy. Today and yesterday, we had a little bit of rain. I think one night, the first night, and the last week actually, we've had a lot of rain. So the surface is actually holding a lot of moisture compared to normal. It actually hasn't even dried out all day today. You can actually see how brown the dirt is. The dirt is normally quite white here. They lay down a little bit of molasses on it, which is like a sugar base, I guess. And that just helps bind the surface. And you can see the groove that's formed the last 2 days.
Yeah, it actually, one thing that, coming from America, there's only maybe one or two tracks that I've actually driven on as we approach the end of the straightaway is, my initial thoughts of the actual surface is I was like quite smooth. I know a lot of the locals I mentioned, like, this has been resurfaced and it's pretty smooth. As you would say. And then, as you're approaching the end of the straightaway, you got the curbing. When I first got here, I was like I wasn't using the curbing. And, I don't know who does the curbing artwork, but the way it's sculptured, it definitely seems that, if you're not using it, you're definitely losing some time.
Yeah. You can ride them. There are times where even you'll get a tire up onto the pipe,
Sure.
which is not fast, but it doesn't unsettle you too much most of the time. You do need to
absolutely
be up on the curb, definitely. So yeah, that's turn one. Through here, you do need to keep it tight.
This is a pretty tricky section.
Very.
There's some invisible speed as you approach the after turn one. One of the things that I saw through video from over the last several months of watching.
See, he's been watching us race video.
I've been watching. Is like setting this section and that section, as we'll talk about here in a second, is all about how you approach turn one.
Yep.
And the secret of this section is actually that curb.
100%.
And one of the things that people don't really kind of think about is how I look at sections is based off of from point A to point B, and some of the sections before like the end of the straightaway, it really determines how you approach and setting up your line for this next corner tabletop. Some of the guys that are watching online have see like there's some curbing here, and that's kind of like from what I've been able to kind of gather, that's your, I guess, guide to say if you're jumping here, this is not the line. You actually want to use this. That actually lifts you up your car, and this is the shortest distance to the landing here. And as you can kind of see, the concrete, the paint's sort of chipping away, and that's kind of chassis or tires landing to downside for turn, I guess, 3. Would you call that?
Yeah. That's 1, 2, and 3. If you push wide like a car length, you literally have to pull out of it, square it up to get this section right. If you don't, you end up, if you push it through wide and then you keep pushing through, you end up catching that pipe, which then throws your car completely off center, and then you end up being very squirrely on the downside. when you get this right, you're on the gas.
Yeah, you get excited.
Literally,
You get excited. You're like, oh snap! I'm gonna pull the trigger here. I mean,
And-
it's like the best for this section when you do it right.
It flows.
It's so amazing on the driver's seat. You're like, oh fuck yeah, that's badass.
Yep. And you know, you can pull tenths, or you can lose tenths through that section. And like, it's 3 corners, but it's literally one section.
Yeah,
you know?
it should feel like one
Yeah.
one section, even though your turn 1 to 3 is the determining factor. As you can see, you know, turn 3 you're approaching another curbing. You know, this particular section, in my opinion, I feel like it's a little deceiving. On the driver's stand, I actually didn't even know this. I didn't even see this curbing. I've been hitting this.
But that's why we're doing a track walk.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. This is why we're doing a track walk for sure. But I'll let Ari take over from here. I know he's been here before, and I'm gonna learn from him.
I've done a few laps. So hopefully you can see in the video, this section here where it's darker, there's actually a little divot, and this divot, especially in two-wheel drive, can actually kick the rear of your car a little bit.
I've crashed there a couple of times.
Like, you're almost, it is the right line to be on, right? It's the line you want to be on, but it can kick your car. So you've got to be careful. And
I've approached this in the rear end actually bucks.
Bucks, correct.
And then your car kind of either dumps over the handlebars.
Or you gotta grab the gas to bring it back down. And you get a little bit of air over this anyway, but the car kind of just feels light coming through this corner. And if you're able to flow with the car through that little light section and keep the corner speed, it's fast. And it really then sets you up for the next little short shoot because you're already carrying the corner speed.
Well, I was say point the camera from this side. I don't know if you can see from the camera, but this is actually an uphill.
A rise, yeah.
It's elevated section, so you're gradually getting up to a taller to turn 4. And
probably nearly 3 feet, probably 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean
it's
pretty significant. One of the things that from the camera, from what I'm able to learn is since it is elevated and the traction is low, you know, depending on what time of the day you're running, it's important to use this turn 3 as your momentum to not lose speed as you're going uphill. Because as you're going uphill, the car's getting more loaded with the tires, and that's kind of like a little bit of some invisible speed. If you can carry the momentum in turn 3, then you don't lose drive coming up this hill. Because when you go uphill, you're losing. You know, you lose miles per hour wise, and then you like gradually want to get on the gas because you think you're going slow. But when you get on the gas too hard, the thing just spins out.
Yep. Or kilometers an hour for the locals.
Yeah, kilometers an hour.
So what this is turn 4. And because of that elevation change, it's kind of like on camber and then off camber. So this corner can feel a little bit tricky in the mornings when it's loose, because you kind of tend to understeer in and then sometimes oversteer out.
Yeah.
Especially if you put a tire on the curb.
One thing that you mentioned there that at this particular time for filming is the time of day. Because of the morning run, you get the shadows on this side of the track, which makes it even more challenging because of, you know, with it being more shadows on this side of the track, it's more damp than the other parts of the track.
Correct.
So right now, obviously, it's a little shaded because the sun's actually going to sundown. But that's one of the coolest things about this track. Is you get some variables like that.
The whole top section of the track is the last to get any sun on it, and it's the last to dry, and it's the last section of the track to sort of take tire and start to sort of grip up. I guess this S section is make or break. You can make up a lot of time through here. There is a semi-straight line. If you're able to hit that turn, the first turn through the S's right, you miss this curb, you have to miss this curb. If you hit this curb, that then sends your car wide, which then ruins you for the next corner. But if you get that right, Again, you put a wheel up on here, especially in two-wheel drive, you need to be here to be able to set yourself up for the first double. In stock, not. There's a couple of guys that can clear it. In modified, we all basically
Yeah.
clear it. But when it's slippery in the mornings, it can be quite difficult.
It's very difficult. I mean, I've seen people in races that you guys had here before. Like sometimes you get a little lucky, you can kind of like clip a little bit of air.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool to watch because it's just the curbing here is so nice. You guys do a great job with the curbs.
I think what it does is it unsettles the car enough
Yeah.
to unsettle you,
Yeah.
but not crash. Okay,
correct.
it doesn't send you off track. You can already see this section, obviously, where the braking point and then the turning point, it's like black. It's grooved up quite hard. There is, as of now, there's considerable amount of grip. So the first double is actually a lot easier to make than, say, in the morning when the track is a little bit wet. But you come through this corner as fast as you can, holding enough corner speed. Again, this is all downhill. You probably saw that before when Tony was down the bottom here. It's downhill, so this is technically off camber as well. Just a little bit, but just enough to, make the car scrub. But if you can hold your corner speed through here, that double, it becomes, I guess, easier to make, especially in two-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's easy to, from what I'm noticing coming from back in the States is, I kind of do an early apex with my two-wheel drive here, and it's bit me a few times because you actually end up not having enough run-up. Like your point A from the curbing to the lift of the jump is just really not enough run-up to actually clear the double. And watching people that experience people here like Ari and Jared and Lockin, these guys are, maybe a foot and a half off here and kind of really using their momentum to do that double.
Yeah, corner speed is key.
Corner speed is very key. There's not that much big of a lip here on this one as we're going to be approaching number two, jump number 2. But this double is very critical, especially for the stock guys. I mean, I know in the mornings they're not even trying.
No.
I don't know if they're actually doing it once we start racing.
There's literally a handful of guys,
Yeah.
I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4, if
Yeah.
that can do it. But it's risk for reward, right? And when you're only just making it.
Yeah. Well, especially if there's only a couple people.
Correct. But those guys can make up time through there. The second double's much easier though.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. A couple of times I know in that last heat of four-wheel drive, there's a couple spots on the lip that I've noticed that kind of project you into a different style.
It has a little bit more pop sometimes.
Yeah, like if you're able to position your car on the inside, it's quite nice. But then when you land on the lander, you're kind of too square to kind of round. You kind of scrub some corner speed. I've actually, with my four-wheel drive, I don't know if I'm running too low of ride height, but I actually hit up the face of the jump and my chassis hit, and it actually kited my car and 360'd in the air. But yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. From watching and driving on the track, this one's really critical as far as landing.
I think the key to this one, less is more.
Yeah.
The less speed, obviously you're pulling into it, but the less speed you have, because it's got so much pop, the softer the landing is.
I definitely concur to that.
This is a pretty cool corner. We'll call it a sweeper. It doubles back, and key to this corner is corner speed, like most corners, but this essentially, if you get squirrely and squirmy, you end up losing momentum, right? And you just need to carve this whole corner, which kind of also turn 1, 2, and 3 sets you up for the off-camber corner after it.
Yeah, this next section is actually really freaking badass to drive once you hit it right. As you're approaching that landing, since it's off camber, and with the, and you're going uphill a little bit once you get to that slope. uphill off camber, you do an early apex because it actually gradually kind of washes out wide, which sets you up really perfectly for the uphill jump here, which is probably one of the coolest spots on the track, this whole section, if you do it right.
Yeah, because it flows.
Yeah,
like, you can flow from that last double. It flows so nicely and it's undulated. When you get it right, and it doesn't take much. Like you don't need to push hard through it. It's just the momentum.
Yeah, as you said on the last jump, less is more. Like this section, if you can get the corner speed right, and make it more fluid feeling, ends up just coming out really nicely. But yeah, this next section, this jump up to step up jumping as elevated, and I honestly, looking at it from here, I don't know if it's actually off camber, but it appears from the driver's
a little
stand,
bit.
but it's not much to kind of really affect the car. For me, when I do this section, I like to send it as far as I can, kind of closer by the curbing, because there's actually, from what I've seen, there's a little pocket here. You can see that this dark area is kind of when most of the cars are actually landing.
Correct.
If you look kind of by the white paint, it's not as dark as this section right here. This is kind of like a nice pocket for hitting up on the jump.
Moving into this next bit, there's a little short chute. And obviously when you step up, two-wheel drive maybe not so much, but four-wheel drive, you literally are straight on the gas.
Yeah.
Two-wheel drive, you've got to be a little bit careful. It can get a little bit slick up here in the mornings especially. But if you can put the power down, and it all comes again from momentum from that step up. If you keep that momentum, you can carve through this whole section whilst being wary of the little step down that we have there. You can go too hot and push wide, roll over. I'll say clip a curb, but the curve's pretty forgiving. It's again quite a steep little drop off. You pop, you get a fair bit of air off it, and it does unsettle the car. And being literally a hairpin right after it.
Well, it makes it kind of interesting is with the two different classes, two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. With four-wheel drive, you obviously have basically front brakes. So you're able to like check up here, land a little bit like down landing, and then you off power, then turn and go. But for two-wheel drive, it's a little bit different in my opinion. How I approach it, you're actually more attacking this section with two-wheel drive because you want to like get a little bit of air to like force the car to stop naturally, and when it kind of like kicks the car nicely for the rotation, not too aggressively, but I feel like I'm more aggressive on this section with my two-wheel drive because you just don't have front brakes.
You kind of need it to land, grip,
Yeah.
and then let go, so you can then rotate through the corner. A little bit of a step up after the corner. Gets a little bit of air, not a lot.
Not a lot. I would say two-wheel drive, maybe not any.
Not even, yeah. It might just lift the front up, but just a little short chute
Off
into
camber.
a double left-hand off-camber corner, which, again, when you get it right, you kind of, it's a double left-hander, but it ends up being one nice little arc. It's not so much two corners, it's just one.
Do you think this is polished to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, like how it, throughout the rounds of running, how much the track changes. Yeah.
Every round it changes.
Every round it
changes. Because it's wet in the mornings, that amplifies how much the track changes every single run that you have. This bit here is actually quite critical, like every corner, I guess. But again, if you push wide here, for whatever reason, you hold too much corner speed. I experienced it in A3 at the state titles where I pushed wide and I just clipped the corner of the pipe on the tabletop, and it sends your car in the wrong direction.
I've done it.
But so hanging tight as much as you can here squares the car up enough to, almost straight line it down over the tabletop.
Yeah, one thing too that from the camera's perspective, you can see right here, like he mentioned from the state finals, which I watched. um, from the driver's stand, you see this grass,
Yeah.
and you don't really know how much there's this lip. You really can't see probably.
I don't even think you can see the pipe.
I don't think you can't see the pipe, and I'm thinking that there's probably almost a foot that you kind of don't really see.
Well, you can even see like here is where
Most of the
cars go.
Yeah.
There is some marks here, but there is not a lot. So most people have the car through this section.
Yeah.
Do you go long or do you go short on the tabletop?
I would say, I think I'm probably landing maybe here.
Yeah,
this
okay.
pocket.
So that's longing. That's long.
That's longing. Yeah, I don't know. Like I've done it a couple times. I kind of like when I go long, because I don't really feel like I have that great of steering. That when you go long, the chassis hits,
Yep.
and it kind of like
It gets
just pops
loose.
the car. It gets a little loose. It's a control loose,
Correct.
if that
Yeah,
even
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But it just organically makes the car rotate because of the unloading of the suspension.
It feels light. The car feels lighter.
Feels light, and it's nice because then it's like, oh, it has a nice slip.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I from watching from the video, this section gets a little bit of some headwind at times, which jumping, your front end can kind of lift. So depending on the weather and the time of the day, the kind of wind comes through the trees, so this section straight is really
Unsettling.
unsettling.
Coming out of the hairpin, you're on the gas.
Yeah.
It, again, can be a little bit slippery through this section, especially in the morning. You can see, again, how polished it is. There's the little, I guess the marbles that get repacked down. I wouldn't even call them bumps, but it gets polished a little bit, so it can get a little bit slick. But you kind of just ride that little bit of slipperiness and pull through the corner up to the... it's not even a step up, really. It's a step up corner hairpin. And usually you sort of just trajectory is right to the apex.
Yep.
I like to use the up ramp as my braking marker, my braking point. It sucks all the energy out of the car as soon as you hit the brake, leading up to the face of it.
Yeah, this one's a little deceiving with the curbing, in my opinion. With this particular curb, this one's the most aggressive pitch for the curbing. It's a lot more steep, so if you are using it, it's a little bit risky because this is off-camber, and if you're turning right here, then it kind of like you honestly can get a little lift from the car flipping over here. So like as Ari was mentioning, using this as the brakes, kind of getting the car into the corner here, probably a little getting the car light so it kind of has a nice natural rotation. And then as you're approaching this next section downhill,
Straight on the gas.
Straight on the gas. It's good. It's nice here because you get a little excited.
Yeah.
And you can see some ruts. I've actually experienced that, like, sometimes the car actually, like, will find a rut and actually will kind of grab or gravitate to this slot here. I've seen a couple of people going kind of a little wide to approach the last turn coming on the straightaway. This is a really cool section powering on to the straightaway here. I've actually, this next hump that we're about to approach here, I've sent it a couple times and
you gotta
flipped.
be careful.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, because you kind of get a little boner city coming down this hill, and then you kind of want to jump this a little bit, but it's quite gnarly.
Yeah, you get a fair bit of air. We land. What is it? Is that 4 feet, 3 feet from there? 3 feet. I'm talking in American terms here. I don't know. You get a little bit of air, and you can correct the car a little bit in the air.
Yeah, you don't get much time to
no.
have to turn the wheel.
Because it just pops, really.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the rubber's hitting the ground, you're feeding the throttle and the wheel through that big right-hand sweeper.
Yeah, this is super cool. When you're coming on this thing and you hit it right, it's freaking awesome.
If you can hold momentum,
yeah.
there's time there.
For sure.
And this section does actually, previously was a little bit bumpier. It's actually a lot nicer once they sort of rebuilt the track.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks back, but you can see how aggressive the surface is there. It can, when the grip comes up, when the sun comes out, it can be a little bit too grippy at times.
Sure.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah, this is a sweet freaking layout.
It's a pretty cool setup.
Yeah. Yeah, and then as you're, like we mentioned, approaching the straightaway, it's nice. You want to stay quite tight.
Mm-hmm.
I would, even when you get to like spot 8 here, I mean, if you hit it really good, I mean, your left tire is here coming out, and then you're gradually getting wider to then approach turn 1, which is where we started the video. This is super cool. You know, the tires are soft here, and the tires are ballooning in 4-wheel drive, and then you know it's pretty cool. A couple times, as you see the outside pipe here, I've pushed out wide and bounced off the outside pipe like NASCAR.
People have been known to get caught into the side of the container. Not mentioning any names, but yeah, you can really open it up. You open the wheel, the car gets straight, and in 4-wheel drive, it's a really nice straight. Good layout, great bunch of people, awesome facility, I guess. But you know, this is my home club. Up to Spencer to let us know what he thinks.
Yeah, you know, coming here, I'm so glad that that I ended up planning this. I basically planned this trip a few days after last year's Worlds in Arizona at Hobby Action, and you know, not being really familiar with running outdoors 10 scale much, I kind of knew that, you know, coming to this facility is going to be really important. The people here, you guys have put on a great show. The people are super nice and welcoming. The food here is great. The track crew is on it, as you've been seeing throughout the video, spray painting the jumps. And yeah, this is super awesome. I definitely am glad that I came, and you know, I'm sure we'll be coming back for the warm up and having a good time. It's been awesome to hang out with the mates.
Yeah, we got, I believe World's warm-up will be April, around April 2025. And then obviously the World's later in the year. So good opportunity to head out to the Hills track and get some running in. The outdoor off-road pin tire setup is really good fun. For once, us Australians get a little bit of an advantage, I guess. Normally we're traveling over to your side.
I don't blame you guys. I mean, it's tough. It's tough going to any track nowadays. There's so many talented drivers, people putting in work. Ari is definitely one of the guys here that's put in the time and effort. But that's what you got to do as a racer. You got to get a little bit of edge. If you can take advantage of that, you got to do it.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. You know, coming here, you know, pitting under the tents, you know, bringing your own equipment and stuff. You know, that's how we do it in 8 scale. It's super fun. You get to talk some smack to your mates.
Yep.
You get to see the camaraderie a little bit. You get to talk to a lot of people that you don't really get to chat to, especially for me coming from the U.S. I'm looking forward to doing it a couple more times. And you get the fresh air. I mean, you got the birds chirping. I mean, when I first got here, I was like, man, am I in the Jurassic Park? Holy shnikes. But yeah, I was like, you know, these birds here in the morning, I'm like,
the kookaburras.
crazy loud. So I brought my dad out here. He's enjoying his time. You know, we got the Associated crew here, the X-Ray crew. It seems like there's definitely a rivalry going on.
Healthy.
It's healthy, but no, it's good. You know, the driver stand's really sweet. It has, you know, the nice railings. They got the sturdy people leaning over it. It doesn't feel like you're gonna fall off. Yep. So you guys have put some serious time and money into this place, which you can totally see it. You know, bringing it back into the track, which is nice. You got the raffle here going on this weekend to dump more money into the track. I'm sure there's some good plans for the World's warm-up and the Worlds. I can only imagine what it's going to be like when we're actually doing that next year.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's a wrap of our track walk. Hopefully you guys liked it. We're going to do some racing tomorrow.
I can't wait. Yeah, that's going to be cool. But normally for like our nationals, we do, you know, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, stadium truck, short course, all in one day of qualifying.
Okay.
So it's quite a bit different. Obviously, for like the worlds, you know, you guys are trying to run it. It seems like you guys are accustomed to running it more like a worlds, even like the European championships.
Well, actually, all of our nationals and state titles, state championships, will always be the one class on the one day.
Yeah.
It allows you to focus more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Yeah, it allows you to focus, kind of, you know, focusing on the one car, you wrenching on the one car. Obviously, there's a lot more racing in one day happening, but it's pretty neat, and it's good practice for like the worlds. In America, we always like to cram things in at once, which I guess you can kind of look at it as a little bit of a different learning curve, because if you're able to drive all the cars and do well with them, you know, you kind of, you know, get that knack for things.
True.
So it's nice to focus on the one car and kind of hitting it all in one stone, or one day for that matter. So tomorrow's 2-wheel drive, correct?
Correct.
And then Sunday will be 4-wheel drive, and then Monday is
Juniors and trucks.
yeah. So, are you running truck this weekend?
I am running truck.
Okay, all right.
I haven't run truck since like 2002.
Yeah.
But my son's racing on Monday, so you know we'll hang out, we'll have some fun.
Absolutely.
Trucks is fun, hopefully, and you know it's another day at the track, which is always good.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Seeing the kids have some fun, laughs.
Yep.
You know, that's what it's all about.
100%. Alrighty, guys, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll race it out tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Cheers.